Hello, everyone. I'm glad you can join me today for another devotional message. I want to start out by asking, what do you think of when you think of Superman? What are some of the qualities that make him so impressive? I mean, he can fly through the air. He's so strong that he can pick up a locomotive. He's faster than a speeding bullet, and he's almost invincible. However, none of these is his most impressive characteristic. You see, there's a very underrated quality that's demonstrated in a scene in which he saves Lois Lane from being shot. He moves quickly to grab the bullet using both his super speed and his invincibility. However, he does not try to take the glory for himself. Instead, he even pretends to faint, and he doesn't tell Lois that he saved her life. You see, Superman never parades his powers for others to see. He remains anonymous as he uses his powers to help people. Some people may have bragged to all their friends about their great powers and used those powers to gain popularity, to gain power, to gain money, and so on. But Superman was content to be mild-mannered Clark Kent, a practical nobody who worked for a newspaper and was even treated badly by his boss and some of his coworkers. Clark Kent is so humble that when his boss asks in one of the classic Superman movies, "Clark, do you know the one thing you lack?" Superman Clark Kent immediately replies, "Humility, sir?" And his boss replies, "No, you have plenty of that." Superman was extremely humble, even though he had all of those powers. And humility is something that God requires for us to have. So we can learn a great deal from Superman's example. First thing we can learn is that we must never think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think. And we find that in Romans chapter 12 in verse 3. You see, we are all dust, and all of us will one day return to dust. Without God, we are nothing, and we can do nothing of great significance. So often today, we think that we are something great, but truly, we are weak and wretched. We need to recognize this point, and we need to rely on God to make us something useful for His service and for His glory. We must never try to exalt or lift up ourselves, for God is opposed to the proud, but He gives grace to the humble, as James tells us in chapter 4, verse 6. And then on down in verse 10, he has said, "Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up." If we seek to glorify ourselves, then God is going to humble us. But if we seek to glorify God in all that we do, and we do not seek our own glory, then God is going to lift us up. Throughout the book of Proverbs, one can read about how pride will lead to a downfall, but a humble spirit will lead to great blessings. Proverbs 16:18 states that pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. And Proverbs 15:33 states that humility comes before honor. We must have the attitude that we sing in one of our songs, "None of self and all of thee." But way too often we are singing most of self and some of thee. Everything we do must be through the power that God supplies and for His glory and not for ours. If we continue to have a prideful spirit, then God cannot use us. But if we humble ourselves and pray, as 2 Chronicles 7:14 states, then God will use us to do great things in His kingdom. Often before I preach or do anything else in the service of God, I pray for God's help, since I know that without Him, I can do nothing good. And I pray that all the glory will go to Him and not to me. And that's something that we all need to do. We need to mean what we say about God receiving all the glory and try not to receive the glory for ourselves. I leave you all today with this final scripture. "Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you at the proper time, casting all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you." 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 6. I hope you've gained something from this lesson. I hope that you are encouraged to humble yourselves in the presence of God, seek His help, and give Him all the glory throughout your life. As always, hope you will join me for our future videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.